Let's see, actually. Hello, hello. Is this on? Welcome, welcome. Awesome. We've got a sunny Tuesday day here at Keller Williams, and I left a couple things up here that we can just share. Here's what's coming up, just so that you can see that as we're kind of filing in and getting settled. We've got an awesome schedule for today. I am really excited about this, planning for a long time about this team meeting, and we have a few awesome things coming up. So try not to spend too much time on the front stuff, even though it's amazing and important, and want to get into our excellent panel about investors. So first of all and foremost, any positivity going around? What are some bucket fills? Anything that you guys would say has been a good thing? Anything that you've seen other people do, or anything positive that's going on? Oh yeah? Cool. Is he out for lend? Can other people borrow him? Is that awesome? Oh, right here. Poker night. Who was here at poker night? Yeah, I was really sad that I missed it. Was out of town, but I heard awesome things about it.
How much did we raise? 25. Wait, you have the real total.
At poker night itself? Nice. Nice gambling money for donations.
I just wanted to introduce Diane.
Yes, yeah, please.
So, can you stand up? Sorry. So, Diane, she has been with Keller Williams for 18 years in Texas, and she just moved to Utah. And
hey.
She's just joined our brokerage as of 24 hours ago. Last week, but just actually. Okay, yeah. Yeah, so I just wanted you guys to know.
Brand new.
Brand new with 18 years experience.
With 18 years experience. Awesome. Diane, thank you. Welcome. We're all happy to be here. If you guys have a moment, go and shake a hand, say hi, welcome her here. What's it like being here compared to Texas? Yeah? Nice. Excellent. Okay, anything else? All right, once again, we've got, vision board class, that is Monday, May 10th. Listing clinic coming up. We'll send out an email on this as well where you can register, but just keep that in mind. And so lead generation, you probably saw an email sent out. So there's, if you guys need what I like to say, and I've thought of this in my own business, if you guys need a kick in the pants and just get some lead gen under your belt, that's kind of the idea. It is really just something that we're hoping to utilize, and would like to introduce Eric Hawker. You want to come up here and tell us just real quick a little bit about this program?
Yay.
Woo-woo.
Okay, guys. You don't know me. Hopefully you will, because I've been here for a little while. I left for. I didn't leave. I never left.
We didn't even finish the paperwork.
Right. I still even have my email account just picked right up where I left off. But I wanted to, when I came back, we talked about a lead generation program where we could just do some real tip of the spear targeted lead generation in a really difficult market where we can go after and learn how to create relationships, learn how to make sure that when we emerge from this market that we're in right now, which is creating challenges, I think, for a lot of people, that we have a pool of people that we can continue to prospect to and continue to sell homes to and for. So it's going to be a real targeted, very aggressive lead generation program. I'll teach you everything from calls to knocks, all the basics, calls to knocks, Facebook ads, all the things that I've found success doing, but really just really hard accountability, right? To make sure that we're doing this every day, myself included. So if you're interested in making, kind of holding your feet to the fire and making sure that you're doing that piece of business every day, we'd love to see you in the program. So I'll send out some details for those of you who are interested. Just email me. I'll send you out some details, and we can talk about it from there.
Awesome.
Sound good? Okay.
Yep. Yeah, this is lead gen in action. Less talk, more do, right? All right, culture. So this month is, we have Red Day coming up. We'll talk about that a little bit. And it's just an excellent time to talk about culture. And, oh, you know what? I didn't say anything about the cookies. So we have cookies here up front from our beloved Gordon. Part of it was also to say, just thanks. And, but he wanted to celebrate and say, hey, you want to say something about it? There we go.
Okay, so you guys get flowers instead of the 300 congrats.
Well, thank you for bringing those, Gordon. So everyone who wants one, you're welcome to those. And also, Tracy said that there's some donuts in the back, and those are up for grabs as well. Is that right? Excellent. Okay, so see, there's an example of culture in action right here. So Keller Williams, let's just share real quick. This is a video that, let me find where is it? Right here. Yeah, props to KWRI for putting that together. Let's get back to our slide here. Keller Williams, so a few things I really want to make sure that we're keeping our culture front of mind and how, and really what makes this company different and unique. One of my favorite things for being here. So again, this is build careers worth having, businesses worth owning, lives worth living, experiences worth giving, and legacies worth living. We want to be the real estate company of choice for their agents and their customers. We believe in God, family, then business. And as far as beliefs down here, so win-win or no deal, integrity, do the right thing, customers always come first, commitment in all things, communication, seek first to understand, creativity, ideas before results, teamwork, together everyone achieves more, trust starts with honesty, equity, opportunities for all, success results through people. And in a moment, we'll be able to talk a little bit more about Red Day and a little bit more about culture in person or in action. And our perspective here is a technology company that provides a real estate platform that our agents, buyers, and sellers prefer. Keller Williams thinks like a top producer, acts like a trainer consultant, and focuses all its activities on service, productivity, and profitability. Okay, so Red Day. Red Day is coming up. We have another cool, fun video because it's probably more exciting than if any of you are brand new to Red Day. This will tell us what it's about. May 13th, when is that? Next Thursday. And that was awesome. Have something here from our beloved Emily. And she wanted to, she couldn't be here today, but she wanted to share a couple thoughts on Red Day. So hopefully this is loud enough.
Hi. Hey, I wanted to talk to you about my experience with Red Day and KW Cares really quick. So 6 years ago on Red Day was my very first day with Keller Williams. And wow, talk about making a big impression coming into the company in my position. That it couldn't have been a better day I had no idea what Red Day was or what was in store for me on that first day. And it couldn't have been a better way to start out. I learned so quickly how generous and kind our people are and how we really take care of each other. And I just haven't seen I had never seen anything like that. And so grateful for what we can do. And thinking back on the past 6 projects, the past 6 years is very humbling and the impact that we've made. And money is good for the good that money can do. I've seen that so much. Also, our hands, many hands can do so much good. And I really hope that you'll come and support us and join and help these kids that we're trying to help. We really can make a big impact. I've had the privilege and the difficulty in this position over the last 6 years that I was in to help our agents. That's the other thing. Our people, they go through things, right? And it's been so humbling to see the other people, the other agents around us help each other and donate their time and their money and have really helped others through difficult times. And that I'm so grateful to you. Thank you for giving us the money and the resources to be able to help our people with what they need. And back in 2016, I never would have thought that we would have been recipients of that ourselves. My brother-in-law was murdered and it was this most horrible situation. And just the love and generosity of you guys, not only did the money help us in burying him, but just is such a way to show love for other people by giving your time and giving money to help in difficult situations. And it's forever etched in our hearts. We'll forever be grateful for that. And I just want to thank you. I want to encourage you. We can make a big impact on others' lives, and that's what this is all about. So come, donate, be involved. Let's make a big difference in this world. And I am not going to crash my car. So I'm going to get off now. I love you guys. Thanks for everything.
Awesome. Amy, will you tell us a little bit about Red Day, what we should know about that, and any info?
Sure. So next Thursday, we're going to meet here at 10 a.m. And we actually have 2 projects, because one thing I've learned about KW South Valley is, especially with Red Day, we'll have a plan and then there's the opportunity to make it bigger. And we always say, yes, let's make it bigger. And we bite off more. So we actually have 2 separate projects that are going on. The first one is with the Utah Refugee Connection. I actually came across them through a neighbor of ours that was sending out texts to the families in the neighborhood asking if anyone had any extra laundry detergent, because the Refugee Connection was totally out and was trying to help fill these bags for refugees. So I called them to find out what their needs were and what they were all about, and found out that they put together these, it's a hybrid of a COVID bag and a cleaning essentials bag. And the refugees go and take classes and they earn these bags that have basic cleaning supplies, hand soap, dish detergent, laundry detergent, sponge. And they have always had a stockroom full. They've never been without. And then COVID hit. And they were 100% depleted to where they were asking for people, can you bring in a tub of laundry detergent? Can you bring in some dish soap to try and make these kits for these people? So we've committed to making 200 kits for the Refugee Connection. And we have also gotten involved. Rob Adams hooked us up with the Principal's Pantry. And I'm going to have Clint and Rob, who are 2 amazing KW Cares committee members, tell you a little bit about what to expect on both of those. So next Thursday, 10 a.m. here. Wear your Red Day shirts, and I have some new ones if you need them.
Hello, everybody. Clint's going to go first, aren't you? All right.
Is this on? Okay. First of all, I want to say thank you to everybody that came out to casino night. That was a really good time. We raised quite a bit of money that's all going to go towards
Rob Adams.
not me. I don't know how it worked out, but I ended up with the most chips at like the last 20 minutes, and
He went all in. I
Yeah.
saw it go down. It was amazing.
yeah, it was a good time. But I just want to say thank you. We raised $2,500 that night, and then I have to give a plug to Stephen Maddox with Edge Homes. He donated $1,700 just yesterday to the KW Cares Foundation to go towards Red Day. So you guys know Stephen. That's just the guy that he is. He's going to be doing that every time. So every time we close a deal with him, every transaction, he said the Be Heard team has done a lot of deals with him. He's going to set aside $250, and at the very end of the year towards Red Day, he's going to give us that money. So I wanted to give him a shout out and thank everybody. But like Amy said, we're doing this to help the Utah Refugee Connection. I actually have a client of mine that went through this program, and it was really touching because I had no idea that he did. And he somehow found out that me and Amy, I think he knows Amy, and he found out that we were doing this, and he was literally like almost in tears from, he said it changed his life. He's a very successful man now. I think he came from Guatemala, and it was kind of just a really ran down area, and his whole family came over here. They helped him, and he's a very successful man now. So I know that it changes people, and he's an awesome guy, and that's just one kind of thing to point out with him. So hopefully we can help some more people, and that's our goal with this. And then obviously the principal's pantry that Rob is gonna go over right now. So sound good?
All right, guys. I have been part of Keller Williams for a few minutes, and I left for a minute, and now I'm back, and I'm really excited to be here today. For Red Day is my favorite part of the year. I love being a part of Keller Williams when we're out serving in the public. It fills my cup. If you haven't had a chance to do this, show up, try it out. Get out of your own head, get out of your own business just for 1 second and help other people. That's the secret. That is the secret to good living. I want you to know. This year, with what we're doing with Clint and getting all these packs together, we are also supporting the principal's pantries. Now, the principal pantry here in our area feeds 10,000 kids per month. They're feeding these kids all the time. Now, Thanksgiving's Heroes, as you know, there's 20% of the kids here locally that don't eat unless they're at school, and so that means when they go on Christmas or Thanksgiving break or summer break, they are hungry. And I got to tell you, I look around this room, and there's no reason we should have any hungry kids living in this community. Can I get a hell yeah? Hell yeah, that's right. And so I want you guys to know our job is to keep on helping these kids locally. And in so doing this has fulfilled my life. This has filled my cup and created this opportunity for me to be a better man, a better dad, a better real estate agent, a better brother, and just a better human. I want you guys to know that this has really refined me and helped me become a better person. When I share these opportunities with you, I come to you knowing that I am surrounded by some of the most generous people in the world. I'm grateful for your examples, showing up, doing the things that you do. I've never met more generous people. When I hear people talking crap about real estate agents, I'm like, I don't know if you know the same ones I know, because they are some of the best people that I know. You guys have showed up over and over again. This is my 7th year doing Thanksgiving's Heroes, and it has grown and continues to grow. And it occurred to me that when summer break comes, these kids are not eating still. And so I wanted to do something outside of Thanksgiving, although, you know, I love Thanksgiving. That's my jam. I love that holiday. So if they're feeding 10,000 kids per month, they're doing about 3,000 per weekend. They have 35 principals' pantries that are empty. Empty. And we have an opportunity just to throw a couple extra things into our cart when we're grocery shopping. When we're out grocery shopping, there's no reason we can't throw an extra toothpaste. Let me read through the list of things that these people need. This is an extravagant list. We're talking about some high-price items here. I know that it went out in Kimber's email. There's a link at the bottom of the email if you don't get this, but I'm going to read through it just quick like a bunny. Here we go. They need breakfast items, pancake mix, syrup, cereal, oatmeal, breakfast bars, Pop-Tarts, ready-to-eat microwavable meals like mac and cheese, soup or pasta, rice, ramen, beans, oil, noodles. They need some hygiene items like toothpaste, toothbrushes. I mean, come on. We're talking like high-end stuff, the stuff that we take for granted: shampoo, conditioner, deodorant, feminine hygiene, and soap, toilet paper, paper towels, Kleenex, granola bars, crackers, puddings, chips, juice boxes, and on it goes. We're not talking about some very fancy things. We're talking about something you can just throw an extra one in your grocery cart and bring it. We're going to be gathering the food down here on this side of the, what do you call this space? The conference training room. And we're going to be putting some things together. Now, I have a goal that we can deliver this food, and we're going to run this food drive through Red Day. This is the easiest phone call that you guys can make to your SOI. I want you to think about this for 1 second. How many times you call your SOI and say, hey, you thinking about buying or selling a house? You're thinking about blah, 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 and you sound like that real estate agent, and you know that when next time you call, they're not going to pick the phone up? That happens because we're calling and asking for business all the time. How about if we just call and ask them to buy an extra couple of toothpastes, some shampoo, some toilet paper? I'm collecting this because it's the right thing to do. Do something good in the community. Let's leverage a little bit of karma, take advantage of Red Day, and collect some food. Who's with me? Woo! That's what I'm talking about. Thank you.
Awesome. So that that link you put where? Okay. So some people have asked if there is a donation, like we are also just going and buying a bunch of this stuff. So if you want to donate money, what's our Venmo?
KW South Valley. And it has a picture of us in front of a Keller Williams sign.
There you go. Come donate time if you can't do that, or you want to do that, and or donate any money or items. Those are the ways that you can be involved. It will certainly make an impact. One last thing, I wanted to share one last thing on culture that that has been amazing just recently, and want to invite Eric back up here just for a minute to share with us a little story of culture in action. And then right after that, we'll get our panel up here and talk about the investment properties. Eric?
So I don't know if, thank you. I don't know if anybody has followed my little journey over the last couple of weeks, but my wife and I just had a newborn.
It's on.
It's on?
Yeah. It's for Zoom or the recording. More than
Oh,
anything.
got it. Which was exciting because both of us are old. So, and it was her first, so it was even more exciting for her. And after about 5 days of her being home, she called me in and passed out in my arms. My wife did, and we had to take her to the hospital by ambulance. And they send her home, and within an hour, her fever went up to 106 degrees, and her heart rate is 175 beats a minute. Brought her back, and she was dying there in the ER, and all the things that, I'm sorry. The roller coaster of emotion was difficult, but I have 5 other kids at home to take care of. And I got an email. I had just come back here after leaving for a few months, and I got an email or a text or something from Emily and from Kimber asking how they could help. And I'm not usually one to accept a lot of help. I typically can handle things on my own. This case probably would have been about the same. I probably could have done it on my own, but they just said, nope, we're helping. And they signed a bunch of people up to bring dinners over. And it's a simple gesture, something that isn't hard for somebody to do, but it made a huge difference for us as I'm in the hospital taking care of my wife, and people are at the house taking care of my kids. And I have an infant at home that neither of us can see very often. And it was just something so simple that that made a huge impact on our lives. And so it's that kind of culture that we have here that is just irreplaceable. It's something that, and I've had my foray out into, you know, the other pasture where it may look greener sometimes, but you cannot find that culture. I mean, you can't find it anywhere else other than right here. So, you know, if you feel like you need help, they're here to help. If you feel like you want to help, there's so many people that we can help. And I just happen to be one tiny little example of, you know, something really that was just, you know, kind of just a blip on the radar when it comes to how big this life is. But for me, it was a huge thing. I mean, it was like a really big thing for people just to step up and say, hey, we're going to help you no matter what you say. Right. So I just have, you know, I have so much gratitude in my heart for the people that have helped and that continue to help, not just me, but so many people out there through KW Cares and everything else. But the culture here is what I want to highlight. I can't sing the praises enough of this culture here at KW. So if you've ever thought of a good reason, if you're thinking of a good reason to stay, that's it. If you're thinking of leaving, don't. All right. If you know somebody who is looking for a great place to be, send them here, because we really can't find a better spot. So that's it. That's my story.
Awesome. Let's give him a round. Thank you, Eric. This is more important than, I mean, something like that, being able to help people. It fuels you more than, I mean, hopefully it fuels you a little bit more than making money. Making money is important, but money is really only as important as what you do with it. So if there's, again, just to finish up on Red Day, if there's something that you'd like to participate or help, even if you're willing to donate to help with that, there is a little bit of gap that we're still trying to cover. So even just $10 honestly would make a big difference. $10, $100, somewhere in between. There's no judgment, whatever you feel comfortable with. If that's something you're willing to do, then that'd be awesome. Okay, let's turn into and meet our, ignore the fix and flip up on top. I did not change that, I apologize. But this is our new panel. Let's bring up Gordon, Clay, and Tracy. Come right up here. Guys, yeah, did you know, yeah, we're talking about fix and flip now, right? Yeah, let me just edit that really fast. Ignore this. That is buy and hold. Okay, so these are three amazing people. Share the mic a little bit. They are all active in real estate. They're active in investing, and would love to just start off real quick. Before getting into the nitty-gritty, tell us something on the personal side, outside of business or outside of investing, but just something that interesting about you guys that we might not know.
You want me to
Yep.
stay on the line?
Yep.
So I actually think it's kind of ironic that we started with culture, because as a 21-year-old UVU college student, getting interested in real estate investing is what led me to KW. And I interviewed with a handful of brokerages. My uncle Doug is a RE/MAX broker, and so I met with him, and it was all about splits and realtoring. And when I talked to KW, and they said, "Hey, it's about being a business owner, and we do talk about investing, and we talk about this thing called culture." It's been interesting as I've even sat here, and I just was reflecting as our KW family member. Sorry, I forgot your name. Was just talking, and I thought, we just had a whole sales meeting, and we haven't talked about being an agent really yet. Like, you're talking about culture, talking about all these things. Now we're talking about investing. I'm like, this is really cool. Like that really embodies the KW brokerage philosophy of being business owners and being, perfecting self-mastery and things like that. So I don't know. It's just kind of fascinating to see, like, we're not talking about, we still talk about it plenty, but it's fun to have team meetings like this. But no, I started in real estate investing about the same time I got into real estate 14 years ago as a 21-year-old, and bought a little condo with an uncle of mine down at UVU when I was going to school. And that kind of changed my life because I got a taste of what it's like to own instead of rent, and then captured that taste of passive income. And still to this day, I own that condo and quite a few more. I don't know what
Awesome.
else you want to know. These two are far more fascinating than me. So,
What's something personal that would be good to know about you, Tracy?
Well, I'm kind of boring right now, but I'm on the Bluffdale City Council, and that's my passion right now. I love it.
That's far from boring.
she's famous.
So yeah,
Yep.
so it's you know, you're either talking politics or housing, and that's about, you know, maybe a little mountain biking, and I'm kind of boring, but I love it.
Awesome.
So-
Gordon?
I'm pretty boring too. Many of you may not know who I am. I'm the regional ops manager. I've been here 16 years now. You can believe that.
Wow.
And I wouldn't have gone down this path if I wasn't pushed. If you guys don't know who Lee Stern is, I worked for Lee for a number of years, and she basically pushed me into this because I went to her saying, I'm not really going to be selling real estate, but I have the red book and I want to become a millionaire real estate agent. How do I do that? And this was the direction she pushed me in. And honestly, if it wasn't for who I was surrounded by, I don't think I would have, it wasn't in my comfort zone, and I would not have done what I've done. I mean, several of the agents that are at this office, Claire and Charlotte, also helped with that. The leadership that I worked for throughout the years helped me get to where I'm at, and I'm going to have a comfortable retirement because of it and have a legacy. So
Why don't you keep going? Tell us a little about what your portfolio looks like today, and as far as your rentals.
I've got 15 doors in 10 properties. So I've got, you know, three duplexes, one triplex, 2 condos, and the rest single family. So it's kind of all spread out all over the valley, including Ogden as well.
Awesome. Tracy?
So I started in real estate about 7.5 years ago. Best thing I did was my rental. So I have 1 4-plex that I just purchased last year and 2 single families. So I'm starting kind of a little bit lower, with hopefully one day I'll get up to 14. But the best thing I've ever done was my rentals. If I didn't do one more real estate deal and went back into doing something else, the best thing I ever did.
Awesome. Clay, what does yours look like?
Yep. So I'm like a middle-class kid from West Valley, so I didn't have any money to get started. So I started with house hacking. If you guys have heard of the term house hacking, I didn't coin that phrase. I don't know who did, but it's the concept of moving into properties. So you're essentially occupying, so you can just put down the 5% down, or even 3.5% if you're doing an FHA loan. So I started with those. So I have lived in so many little dumpy houses over the last 10 years. But that's how I got started. It was the only way I could save up enough money to do. I could save up 5%, but saving up 20% was just brutal, you know? So I moved into quite a few junky little properties that I'm now in that phase of life, because I started that about 10 years ago, and I was doing about 1 a year for the last 10 years. But these last year and this year, I'm actually selling properties and 1031 exchanging them into commercial and land. And that's like when you talk about like the greatest thing that's ever happened, that's what's fascinating. Is my second property, after I bought the little UVU condo with my uncle, I bought a West Valley house that was just trashed. It was a short sale, 2010, perfect timing, right? Bought it for 112 grand. So like, time makes every investor look really smart. But yeah, I just sold that a few months ago. Sold it for $360 or something like that. It was right before Christmas. And I moved that money directly laterally over to an under construction 4-plex that's worth like 800 and something thousand. So it's like the same dollar amount, no money out of my pocket. I was able to take that investment and just kind of level up, is kind of how I describe it. And so right now, like when you count what I have under contract, it's like 20 something doors. I've got a lot under construction right now because I'm selling these. I call them junky houses because I literally built the kitchens and I suck. So like, I know they're junky houses. So I'm selling off the ones that I know are like gonna bite me in the butt here in a few years when people realize how poorly crafted they were. And they weren't that bad, but they were, again, I did it. and I'm buying new, which is crazy because new right now isn't necessarily a good deal. I don't know if a good deal even exists right now, but if you can just buy something, anything, it's a deal. And so I bought
several at the height of the market. And, you know, I look back on that and think, what a great thing for me, because it taught me to do the rentals, because I was trying to do them on my own instead of, I was trying to self-manage, but it kept me in it because I couldn't sell them.
Yeah.
And now I look back, it's like, oh my gosh, they're worth almost 3 times what I paid for them at the height of the last market.
Yeah. Yeah. My first rental was like 2006. It was the height of
Right.
that market. But guess
Exactly.
what? That's the condo I still own today.
Right.
And I'm making a killing. Like, we all laugh, but seriously, time makes the stupidest investor look
Exactly.
good.
Because I was losing money on those.
Yeah, I lost money for years on mine too.
Yeah.
Until I wasn't, and
in-
now I look great.
Exactly.
And when you lose money, like, what are you talking about? A couple $100 a month.
Right.
Like, it's not the end of the world.
Somebody's still paying you.
And right now, I'm buying a townhome. People think I'm buying an Edge townhome. And after my upgrades, I'm paying $507,000 for a townhome. Does it pencil? Not really. But where else am I going to stick? Not yet. That's the thing. And that's where I'm like, and
Not
here's
yet.
the thing is, like, the really smart investors would probably slap me right now and say, well, just move states, go invest in Florida or somewhere where you can get cash flow on day one. I love Utah. I'm passionate about Utah. I think there's something special here. The economy has made me wealth. I don't know. I know it. I trust it. I want to keep it here. And just like you said, I might not have great cash flow for the first couple of years, but I will on year 3. And my plan is to own it to retirement. So I'm not losing any sleep over it.
How do you decide? So this, anyone can answer. And of course, if questions come up, then raise your hand, let me know. How do you guys decide whether to buy a property or not to buy a property?
I've been really very conservative in my approach, so I haven't gotten to where I can buy a 507,000 condo and negative cash flow. I'm not that brave yet. So I guess maybe I've been, there's still deals out there in this market too. I think that's important to remember. Like, I just closed on my fourplex at the end of December. It's worth probably 115,000 more than I paid for it. And I'm cash flowing on it. So all of mine have been very conservative, 25% down, because I'm not going to buy the points. I don't want to pay, do 20% down. So it's 25% down, and I'm going to cash flow every month. And if I don't, I haven't been able to purchase it. So I need to learn to be a little bit more risky.
Do you have a number that you like to cash flow? Or is it just as long as it breaks even?
The 10% rule I've really liked.
What is that? What's the 10% rule?
So like on my like overall investments for my 6 stores, I think it's cost me about $260,000 overall down payments. And I bring in probably close to 14% cash flow just on the rent. So I probably make $36,000 a year on those. Plus so that's where I like my 10%. And a lot of people will factor in also, like the appreciation and, that I haven't made a house payment myself on any of them. And that doesn't include the appreciation, so I like to factor my 10% on the amount of money so it's been $260,000 for all my down payments. I want my 10% cash flow on my money that's coming out of my pocket. Because if I have $60,000 sitting in my bank, it's not making anything. And so if I put it in the stock market, it's going to be, maybe you can make 10% on that. But then then that's not even counting the appreciation and then paying my loan down. So I do my 10% off of my down payment that comes out of my pocket.
So if you were to
Very
spend
conservative.
100,000 on a down payment, then you would expect 10 grand in a yearly income.
Yep.
So just under $100 a month cash flow. I'm just making sure that I'm getting the math right on that. Oh, yep.
I mean, it's doable. I just did it on my fourplex. I put 160,000 down, and I cash flow $1,500 a month on it. I think I'm like I said, I'm very conservative, and so you're right. It's very hard right now, and that's one of the reasons why rents are going to go up, because if you're buying a $500,000 townhome and these landlords need to make it pencil, I know that's one of the reasons why rents are going to start to push up.
Well, and that's what I want to correct. I won't buy a property if I'm negative cash flowing. Let's just get that clear. If I'm buying something that I say it pencils crappy, all that means is I've got to put more cash into it to make it work, right? So I'm putting the 25% down as well. And I'm heavily exploring actually trying to nightly rent this one if I can, just to really get that cash flow going. I certainly don't want to just come out the gates with a negative cash flow. Yeah. And
You said earlier that you don't cash flow in the first 2 years and you start getting cash flow here and there.
If you read the book Hold, I think Hold is like one of the best books that like we don't talk about at KW. It's a KW book. It came out of Keller Inc. But Hold has the rule where the McKissick say if it cash flows even $1, they'll still consider it. And that's where they talk about, because the tax savings are so huge, the debt reduction, the appreciation, even though you don't really receive that until you refinance or sell it. But if it cash flows $1, they'll still consider it if it kind of checks all their other boxes. And that I think rings true. Like I'm buying a couple of little condos, also just little edge condos, that the cash flow is like $40-something. And people are like, why would you do that? And it's like, because of the other 3 quadrants that make money. And also I've got to put my cash somewhere. I'm a saver. I live in a townhome right now. Like I don't spend a lot of money. Like I'm just obsessed with investing right now. And so that's usually what motivates me on knowing like when is just simply the fact of, well, I've got to stick my money somewhere, and I can only buy so much crypto before I look like an idiot. So I want to like, I've got to stick some cash in a few of those places, but also the townhome, you guys are gonna just keep beating me up on the townhome. I fell in love with it. I got emotional. It's like on the lake, on Utah Lake. It's next to a park, and it's like literally like less than 100 yards to my personal house that I'm building. So it's like my little second house by my house. So like it's probably not the best buy. We should talk about something different.
Sorry, I didn't get the answer for one question. You said the first 2 years you don't get any cash flow, but then you start getting cash flow probably the third year. So
Yes, because rents go up.
Why you didn't get any cash flow in the first 2 years, and why all of a sudden you will get the cash flow?
You're only talking specifically about the one you're building now.
Yeah, just that one. Yeah, I'm banking on the fact that my mortgage is fixed, right? I've got fixed costs. My property manager's fixed, my mortgage is fixed, all of that is fixed, but rental income is not. Rental income, I get a rental increase every renewal. And so this year, and I don't know if you guys own rentals, I'm like holding my breath over the next 30, 60 days right now to see the rental bump, because we have not seen last year we didn't get the bump.
It's already happening. I've got 2 of them that I'm raising more than 20% on turnover.
See, 20%.
Wow.
See, that's what
20%
I'm
over a
banking on
year.
is if this is the year that instead of like a 3% bump, can I get like a 20%? If we do that, then I'm golden on everything. 100%.
I made the mistake of not doing that to begin with. I'll never do it again.
About being cheap.
I was at 4 and I was ready to kill someone.
I was at 5.
Well, yeah.
Well,
Even when I got to 3, I was still, I was too nice, and I kept getting sucked into the tenants' problems, and I felt bad for them. And there wasn't that arm's length transaction there either.
I'm a sucker for boohoo stories.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it was terrible. I felt
Yeah.
so bad.
Well, I'm at 6 stores, and I haven't had to. I just am at my first turnover on one of them, but I have had thoughts in my, like I got a letter for a management company, and I'm like, I'm going to save that letter. So it's, I think it's starting to be. I have my husband who helps as well, so he's kind of handy. So he helps with that. So if I didn't have that, hands down for sure. But my husband kind of manages a lot of
Push
it.
too is
So
if you get a bunch of singles in a house, like a bunch of college kids that have never lived away from mom and dad and call you for like, the disposal's not working, or what's an air filter, what's like, that was the straw that broke my back. And I hired a property manager when I had UVU students in one of my houses.
Calling you at 1 a.m.
Yeah, like literally middle of the night, like.
How did you make the choice as to what property management company you went with?
I've gone to like 4 of them. They all suck.
How do you make those choices? So which ones should I avoid first of all?
The least expensive are the ones you want to avoid. You get what you pay for. Like you'll get people that come and say, hey, we're 6% run. Like you get, like, think about it, even like 10%, they just don't make money. That's why like at KW, we've always had that great debate because we have internal property managers in our brokerages. They just don't make money. It's a very slim business model for sure.
And I was really lucky because I started out with Wani Larson. She was an agent here and she was awesome. But then her and her partner split up and they sold the company and it ended up being a nightmare. And I held on for too long. I didn't make a change. Now I'm with Reader Asset Management and they do a really good job.
You got to just plan to manage the managers.
That's a hard thing for me to do. I have to go back to the hold book and keep going through that section. Where's my lane?
Yes.
Because there's a couple of the properties that one of them I lived in for 17 years. So I've got a personal, I raised a kid there. So I drive by and it's like, oh God, they're mowing the lawn wrong. Right? So I have to remind myself I need to manage the manager, not the property.
I think that's important to remember too, is like, if you have to kind of think of it as this is $100,000 a year job.
Right.
It's not free money. Like it takes a lot of time and effort. And that's what I've seen with some people starting out. They forget like it's a job. So it's like, okay, I'm going to earn $100,000 this year overall in doing this. Well, I better plan on what is that going to take? Because, I want to keep, the value in my properties. I don't want them to be a detriment to the neighborhood and I want those values to stay. So I think that's important to remember. I've seen people forget that.
And you may love it. One of like my early on inspirational conversations was with a guy in West Valley where I was growing up, where he's just like your normal Joe. He was in his late 40s and he made the comment when we were talking about employment. He said, oh, I'm self-employed. I just manage my rentals. And the guy said he had like 48 doors and it was his full-time job just to take care of those 48 doors. But it was a cool lifestyle. Like he was the guy that like went on vacations all the time. Like he had his big truck and all of his tools in his truck because he was the maintenance guy, the leasing office. He just did it all. But he really like glamorized that lifestyle. And I thought that was cool when I met him. And it was very inspiring thinking 48 doors, I'm not a mathematician, but if he's getting even $1,000 a door, that dude's, he's grossing 48 grand a month. And that like really like made me think like, okay, this is something that normal people can do too. But I think you've got to figure out your lifestyle. I'm at that point right now where like the time to manage properties just isn't in my wheelhouse, but could it be when I'm older and kind of into it? Maybe.
No, you're too nice.
No, and that's true. And I am too nice. And I needed, and so he left, but the managers that I hire, I kind of want meaner managers that have a spine because I just am too nice.
So as far as like your property quality, how do you make sure you ever go to your properties to make sure that they're not getting messed up, or have you gotten them messed up? How do you fix them? Just kind of the whole not letting people mess it up.
They say, don't be gentle. It's a rental. It rings true. The renters are terrible. The majority. They just don't, because it's not theirs, they don't treat it well. And we do walkthroughs twice a year on all my properties. And upon move out, I had one move out over the weekend. I go inspect the property with the inspector and go through the list of items. And I'm pretty strict. I mean, this one's going to cost the past tenant probably $1,500, their deposit plus some, and they're going to end up in collections if they don't pay it because, they painted walls, all kinds of stuff, a huge fire pit in the backyard that they did last summer after we did our last inspection that they were told they couldn't do, you know, it's just, everything can be repaired though. You know, that's the thing. And they're paying down your mortgage. I'm not paying that mortgage, they are. And that's the best thing on, you know, what's coming up with inflation right now. My rents are going to increase, but my costs aren't. My fixed costs aren't. So overall, I think it's going to end up being well.
What about for you guys? You guys have any issues with your properties getting messed up, or are you guys pretty good? How do you like make sure you guys bring in good tenants as well?
I think for mine, for my two single families, we did the lawn maintenance even the first year. Now we have some good long-term tenants in there, but we'll go and do like spring cleanup and fall cleanup, and we're there and they know us. We'll bring a furnace filter, and so we've kind of developed a relationship with them, you know, and with our new one where they're doing the cleanup and they know that we're there, and that we're invested in the property, and that we're like proud owners and we're not just these absent people. And so I think that helps where they see, you know, that we're caring landlords of the property. There was like a free food event where you could pick up boxes of food, and we went and dropped those off to our ones in Orem, you know, where they're $1,000 a month rents. So we kind of, I don't know, I kind of build relationships with the tenants as much as possible. And I don't know if that helps or not, but.
Yeah, and I'm the one that's trying to detach more and more from my properties. So a couple of things. First, I do hard surfaces as much as possible. So like, even when I'm flipping a house, it's granite and quartz, everything on countertops. It's as much hardwood floor as I can, with like the exception of the bedrooms. I'm hardwood floor. Even if they tell you they don't have a dog, they always do. They always have a cat. They lie to you, and so like you just expect it. I give every Christmas, I give a $50 Home Depot gift card to all of my tenants, as like, it makes me like a nice landlord to kind of build that rapport, but it's definitely to Home Depot, like fix your shit. Yeah, exactly. But it's, you know, it's always tough. Property managers, that's probably the weak spot on property managers, is they'll always promise that they'll do your, you know, 2 times a year inspections. But I found that those get missed a lot.
See, and I get pictures and a full report.
Yeah, and I usually get pictures in a full report
Yeah.
once a year, but I really want that twice a year. So I kind of have to write them a
See,
little
and
bit more.
I reach out and said, okay, we're scheduling these because they happen in January and July.
Yeah.
So I reach out. So when are we
Do you
going
ever
to start these?
attend?
I don't.
See, because I've
don't-
thought about like, should I just go to meet them, kind of build that rapport and do that? But I've
don't
only
want
done
them,
that like
even if I stop by the
once.
property, which I do on some of my properties, and you know, somebody will say, who are you? And it's like, oh, I'm with the property reader asset management. I never tell them I'm the owner because I don't want them to know.
Yeah.
I don't want
Yeah.
them to know me.
The other thing too, if you want to be like more detached, I've started to shy away from single family homes. At least the ones that I've gotten trashed the most are the single family homes. There's something about a condo and a townhome being in an HOA where the grounds are maintained. The only thing I really have to worry about is interior. Problem is townhomes and condos usually are just number wise just aren't as good as like a
See,
good
and I've
single
had more
family.
problems with the condos.
I know I get complaints from the HOA that then I have
Yeah.
to forward because they're not following the rules. Yeah, it's a mixed bag. Notice too, anytime you like listen to Bigger Pockets podcasts or panels or whatever, the one thing you'll learn about real estate investing is there's no perfect asset class. So when someone's like, oh, I want to be the condo, I met a guy that had like 80 something 2-bedroom condos here in Utah. And I was like, dude, what is your like, clearly I know your flavor, but why? And he's like, because I can legally discriminate against families. I hate kids. They trash my places. So if it's 2 bedrooms, I never get kids. And I thought that's really smart. But like, that was his
But then
flavor.
you have to deal with the HOA.
But
Holy
then I was
crap.
like, you have like HOA financials to review and all of that. Like, it's just a whole different set. Then you'll find some big institutional places that are like, we want. Remember when Vivint made all their money like 5 years ago and they went and bought like 300 houses that year? Their criteria was a Rambler with a 2-car garage with 3 bedrooms on the main, like the staple in Utah. They bought 300 of those in 1 year. I can't remember what that group was called. It was the Vivint group. But I thought, well, that's an interesting criteria. So like, what's your flavor? What's my flavor? I don't know. I'm kind of getting into commercial a little bit. That's kind of fun. People sign 3, 5, 10-year leases. Like, that's cool, but commercial has its issues too.
But
So
yeah, a good way to get into commercial, because the commercial loans and stuff is that's because I'd like to eventually get there, and that's with buying the fourplex, and then then being able to get into putting those into a business name, and then being able to build those up as assets to be able to get a commercial loan with those rentals and maybe have a big apartment complex would be kind of a longer term game with that. I
We
don't
had,
know.
we had a couple questions. Do you have something else? I think I saw a couple of
gonna
hands.
tell
Do
a
you
big
do you
secret.
remember your questions? Okay.
Yeah, no, they have to have a semi-decent credit score, and we've also imposed, because of this last year, if they've got any credit issues regarding their prior tenancy, the answer is no. If they have an eviction, the answer is no. From that going forward, and I'm going to be really strict about it. If they've got some other blips, we'll work around it. But I was pretty good about the last couple of years. They had an old eviction or something, we kind of worked around it, but those ended up being my problem tenants last year. I'm just not going to do it again.
The thing I like to look for most is work history and how long they were in their last rental. Because the ones that are in my single family homes, like, I mean, I had to help the one lady fill out the application, and it was, and I'm like, what am I doing? But it was, but she's been there 2 years. I don't think they'll ever move. And, they think of that, this is their home, but she had lived in her last rental for like 7 years, and her husband have been at their job for a very long time. So like, if their credit isn't the best, there's a reason why they're a renter. So those two things I have found have been the most useful.
2 things. If they need to move in within a week, they're not allowed. Like if they don't know how to plan their life, I don't want to deal with that. Number 2, I walk with. That's a red flag. That means they got evicted too. Yeah, they're in a pinch. If it's under 7 days, something's going on. And then I don't do this anymore, and I laugh because I don't know if this is real, but I did do it when I was managing my own. And that is when they come and see your place, walk with them to their car and look inside their car. How they treat their car is probably how they're going to treat your house. I don't know if that's true either, but kind of, right? Judge a book by its cover.
Yeah, pretty valid. Right here.
So Clay, you had mentioned that you're looking into your townhouse being a nightly rental.
Yeah.
Can you expand on that, even though that you can do that with it?
You're not supposed to, but I don't. But we live in America. So I helped. I have a friend who is a widow, and when her husband died, she inherited $1 million life insurance policy, and everybody was tiptoeing around it and wouldn't really give her advice. And she came to me and she said, "Clay, like we have kind of like we're friends, but like it was more of a business relationship besides sold her property." And she said, "Can I just disclose to you, like I inherited this policy, what do I do with it?" And we had the idea for her to, as a part-time job, because she's still a mom, she has 5 kids, as a part-time job to pick up a property in downtown Salt Lake and run it as an Airbnb, a nightly rental. So we picked up this sweet penthouse right by the Vivint Smart Home Arena, top floor. It was like a condo with 2 different entrances. So she remodeled it and made it a duplex condo. Really cool. And she Airbnb'd the heck out of that thing. And and it was spendy. Her mortgage and all expenses were like $4,000 a month. But she consistently, almost every month, brought in $8,000 to $11,000. It was like the coolest part-time job. She was making $5,000, $6,000, and that really, and because I've never had the guts to like do that, but having witnessed her find so much success, really like, and COVID hit hard, but like, thank goodness they did that, the forbearance. So she just did forbearance for like 6 months while all of her bookings were dead. And then they're back right now, by the way. Her biggest month so far was just here in this February. She made 11 grand. Anyway, so all of that has my mind thinking like, okay, not that I want to like have a part-time job, but maybe my wife would, maybe we could crank the nightly thing going. The HOA, a lot of HOAs don't strictly say that they allow it. Some will say they strictly don't allow it, but a lot of them are ambiguous. They don't say anything, but they enforce parking. It's always parking. Like for any rental, it is parking. Especially when you have your non-conforming basement apartment, you're renting out your house as a duplex, but really it's single family with a mother-in-law. Like you can do those. It's enforcement by complaint, but parking will sting you every time. So put in your leases, no street parking. And pour extra concrete, get them off the street. That's my only concern. If I do this nightly, how do I manage parking? But I feel like if I manage parking and I don't infringe on the neighbor's rights, I hopefully can fly under the radar for a little while. I don't know.
I think enforcement by cities is that's difficult for them to do. But I don't know, this is just a thought, but like how with the passage of the new ADU laws, it makes it, it's good because it opens up, a little bit freer ordinances, but at the same time, it also gives cities the power to enforce more. So I don't know, it makes me wonder what they'll do with it. But yeah, it's right. As long as and it is hard for cities to enforce. So as long as you're being a good neighbor.
But HOAs can enforce it.
Yeah.
I know a lot of HOAs, they do like a 49.1% rule. So it's in the Sun homes too.
On the rentals, yeah.
Yeah. So
That's
49%.
for conventional. If you have more than 50% non-owner occupied, you can't get a loan.
Yeah.
You have to get portfolio loans. And we deal with that around the BYU housing stuff all the time because it's 99% student housing. Nobody occupies. We can't get loans on any of that stuff. So yeah, they police, and a good HOA should police it because I do want to maintain that we have financing and that doesn't become too overwhelmed with rentals.
Yeah.
Right now, it doesn't matter. Everybody's paying. In my smaller HOAs, my gosh, they're flying off the shelf and they can't get financing. They're still
getting
There's-
cash buyers.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Do you have a question, Clinton?
Ooh, great question. Yeah, the house hacking led to BRRRing. BRRRR. Buy, renovate, rent, refinance, repeat. I probably mix those R's up, but you get the idea. But it's so like that very first home in West Valley is such a cool story. So I went to my dad and I said, Dad, you've got your house paid free and clear. How much do you trust me? Which is always a hard conversation because I was like 23 at the time or whatever. He says, what do you got cooking in your little brain? I said, will you let me do a home equity line of credit on your house for 150 grand? He agreed to it. And this like literally changed my life. And I give a lot of credit to my dad because my dad doesn't have a lot of money, but he had that one house. But he let me do that home equity line of credit. So I used that to buy the short sale for 112,000. And then I had that little bit left to do the rehab. I lived in it, I moved into it, and then I refinanced it and I got occupancy financing, but I did have 20% down because of the BRRRR method. Like it took 6 months, but when I remodeled it, I put an apartment in the basement and like I had the 20%. And so when I refinanced it, I got all the cash to pay my dad back. And of course, during that time, I had been saving money for the 5% because then my next one after that, I did with my money, I put 5% down. And then I lived in that for a while. Then I stuck renters in behind me and I bought another one for 5% down. And then I used my dad's money on another one. And so like it just kind of snowballed. But the answer is absolutely. So you got to strategize with refinancing. One thing that did get me too, if you're doing the BRRRR method is you can't refinance too quick. If you try to refi in like, I think it's under 6 months, they won't use a new appraisal.
Yeah, three months if you've got under 5 and 6 months if you've got over.
Pay attention to that because I tried to do one really, really quick. And they're like, sorry, we can only use your purchase price. Like that defeats the whole purpose of the BRRRR method because I'm trying to use the equity I created as the down payment.
I did something similar to that with 4 of my properties. One of them are side-by-side duplexes. And Alta Bank has something similar to a 203K construction loan.
Cool.
So you basically put money in a savings account and you use it as a construction draw. And there's two closings on it, so it is more expensive. But on a couple of my properties, my final down payment was $6,000 and $14,000 because I bought the pig, fixed it up, and then it reappraised at the higher amount. So I didn't have to come up with all that money at the end. And Alta Bank's really good about giving you because they know your financials, and they can give you the guidelines. Okay, well, you're over this amount, this many loans, you have to wait 6 months to refinance. And they, you work that in and you pay the interest.
So you'll hear what's called a series LLC. A series LLC is an LLC that has little pods, has little series for each property. I was tipped off to that strategy years ago, and so I set it up that way. So I have one LLC for all of my residential properties. My commercial properties, each one is in its own LLC. So I have my series right now that has, a dozen or so properties in it. However, I just took a law class up at the University of Utah where they had a couple of really smart attorneys that were quick to remind everybody there that the series LLC has not yet gone through the scrutiny of a good, solid trial to have some good precedent. So in theory, it should give you protection between properties. So somebody burns down one property and somebody dies, heaven forbid, and they want to sue the LLC. In theory, it should stay within the series and shouldn't be able to cross that corporate veil into your other properties. However, those guys, again, were quick to say that it's yet to really be litigated. And so the default answer should be maybe you cluster 2 or 3 properties per LLC, but not much more. I mean, if you want yeah, exactly. Yep. And in QuickBooks, I forget what you call it in QuickBooks. Classes, thank you. In QuickBooks, you can create classes. So I have a class for each property, but the reason why that's so nice is your series LLC is one tax return, and so it saves you all the money there. But again, I don't know if any of us can really defend the legal, the protection that it. Yeah, I don't know. Cool.
One master series and then series A, LLC, series B, LLC. Is that kind of what you're saying? Or do you just have a bunch of assets sitting under that one master?
No, they're
each LLC.
Yeah, they're each LLC, but they're part of the big L because you only do one tax return for all of them. Yes.
Yeah,
correct.
It has to be named that way when you file it. Yeah, a series of except
Bingo. And I just use the property addresses.
That's what I do too.
Yeah. We're getting deep, you guys. Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and there's a few. One thing that's really that I'll give a plug for is Mark Kohler does some of the best. If you guys have heard of him, he's always hitting the KW offices, but he's an attorney and a CPA, but he just does the dorkiest but best YouTube videos that I subscribe to him on YouTube. He just whiteboards stuff, but it's how to, because any of these LLCs, because they're businesses, if your kids mow the lawn and you pay your kids to mow that lawn, it's now a business. He gets into all the fun stuff. We're talking about just kind of the basics, but when you treat these like businesses, now
his
all of a sudden you
YouTube
have all kinds of
his
write-offs.
YouTube channel gives tons of great information.
Tons of. Yeah, his podcast. I do his pod. In fact, it's because of him I just converted my IRA to a self-directed 401k, which was such a pain in the butt. And nobody will support you because financial advisors don't make money, right? But Kohler, his little group, his partner Matt Sorensen, I think is last. So they started a company that helps, and it's mostly realtors, self-direct their IRAs or their 401ks to buy real estate. And I did that 2 years ago and used my money that was making nothing in the stupid IRA to buy a project in downtown Salt Lake with some friends. And we built some townhomes and sold them and made 50% return on our money.
And the cool thing is you don't have to pay money on that gain.
It just all went back
It
into
goes right back
it
into
goes
the IRA.
all back into the 401k. And now it's like, hey, I mean, that gets really deep and complicated, but if you have a 401k or an IRA or anything that's like, you got 50 or 100 grand, like that perfect amount for a down payment, you should explore a self-directed.
I didn't find it that hard, other than you have to make sure that it's arm's length. I mean, you can't even walk into the property.
Right. That's why we had to sell them. I
Yeah.
couldn't own them after.
See, and I owned them and had the property manager manage them.
Got it. And you just don't touch them.
Yeah, just don't touch them. You
Yeah.
go in, even if you go into the property, there's some pretty good restrictions on that.
Yeah. Gordon is definitely the one you want to go to for the details.
Elise, did you have a question?
Well, actually, I just wanted to make some comments, because I actually have some experience with some of the things that you guys are doing. And so I guess I just wanted to add to the discussion. Like, for instance, with my series, I do have a master's series, and then there's a TV for that, but there's a series of the actual bank, like, I have an individual bank account, that's really important, that you have to show that you have individual bank accounts for each property. And so they actually say series at the beginning of the name, which is really annoying when you're doing something else. But anyway, I have that. I also am a great fan of Martin Kohler. But, so I just want to say that as far as I manage my own properties, and I also have a property manager for my property in St. George, which actually has been wonderful because I have been managing my own properties, and it's so nice to have someone else do it. But I wanted specifically to speak to the idea of negative cash flow versus positive cash flow, and that is that as you build your portfolio, you may find that you come across a property that makes sense, that it would appreciate well, and that it should do well, but maybe you have a really stubborn seller that just won't budge on the price, and it's not quite cash flowing, but it's really close. Sometimes you can still get away with it if your portfolio can support it. So if you've got, say like you have a positive cash flow that's really more than you need to live on or more than you need to roll back into your portfolio, you can use that loss to offset that gain, and it actually comes to you on a tax basis. So that's one thing to consider. Just kind of, you have to be careful, but that is one thing to consider. The other thing that you need to consider is how close you are to either retirement or how close you are to selling properties, because of course, sometimes you can be in it for the long haul. So the property may be kind of iffy cash flow at this point, but as you hold on to that property and that appreciation is there, that's going to be something that's going to be a big thing, plus in your retirement, because of what it's worth and what's appreciated to, not just what you're living on. You know what I mean? So some of those things are things to keep in mind. Is this an investment? Is this my income? Is this my job? Or this, I've got somebody else managing it. There's lots of different factors, and all your properties don't have to be the same. You might find that there's some properties that, you know what, it's just a really simple, simple property. My niece, rents it from me. It's not worth paying a property manager for me to take care of it. And then you'll have another property, you're like, I don't even want to know that I own it other than getting the check in the mail. Do you know what I mean? So I think that there's a lot to consider. And so having a good mentor that's done it really makes a big difference. So that's my
Well, and this leads to the conversation of the question that I feel like as realtors, we have to ask ourselves, and I don't know the perfect answer for this, and that is, what does a deal look like in 2021 in Utah?
Right.
And I don't know. Maybe you guys have ideas. Like when someone's like,
I think it's also personal preference on what we think, what we see is coming with our own businesses. Because, I'm seeing obviously appreciation since I refinanced last year. I was just telling you, I've gained $450,000 in appreciation. I was shocked. I didn't think it was quite that much yet. And same thing with the rentals. I think we're going to be seeing double digits over this next 2 years in rent increases because of the cost of goods. So I think that's going to help us because we're in a fixed, all our stuff is fixed.
And I think it's like, if you do have a portfolio, it does make it easier to expand some of that. But if you're just starting out and you've got to cover the difference, that's where, for myself, it was limited. And now it's like, okay, well, if this one wasn't rented out, then I've got my other property that can cover it, and I'm not having to come cash out of pocket. But that was a big, and so now I can broaden different my portfolio. But to get started, I couldn't consider, like, I just am so conservative. I'm like, I don't want to come up with $300 every month, or what if this isn't rented? So, to have, that reserve to start, I think is important,
Another consideration though is if you're gonna live on the income, that obviously a positive cash flow is more crucial. But if it's an investment that you can afford to let it just pay for itself, and you can roll any kind of positive cash flow back into it, that widens your cushion.
Yeah.
So that gives you more of a cushion to be able to look at other properties that maybe aren't positive cash flow.
And that's why Tracy's excited about her fourplex, because you've got 4 units. So if she has 1 vacancy, she has 3 other units that can
Cover
sustain
it.
it.
So I definitely agree with you on this thing. I wanted to give the optimism that as you do it, you have more opportunities to take risks.
Yes,
You just have to be willing to
absolutely.
So I'm not an idiot to buy my town.
No.
Well, and I did that. I
No,
did that.
you're not.
I think I felt I overbought, and I didn't know the true cost of anything when I kind of jumped in head first. So I was losing money at first on a couple of mine, but I'm glad I did it because now they're cash flowing amazing, and they're worth. A couple of them are worth 4 times what I paid at the height of the last market. So, it's all going to work out in the end. Time is what you need. It's not something that solves in a year. 10 years down the road, you'll be going, I'm so glad I did that.
Which means if you're going to hold it for 10 years, I don't care what you buy, just go buy something.
Yeah.
Like literally in this market, like just go get something.
Yeah, as long as you can pay for it.
That's
Yeah. As long as you can pay for it.
And that's
And
why
that's
the
kinda
cash
not-
flow at least $1, because heaven
Exactly.
forbid you do end up on your back or
And-
disabled or
And know
something
your
like-
and know your true costs. I mean, read the whole book, go through and know really what it costs and what's involved. Because I didn't. Well, the whole book wasn't out when I first did it.
Yeah.
Is there
So-
anything that you guys would like to share about the government in saying that your tenants don't have to pay rent, or you can't kick them out, or is there anything around that that you want to share? Any thoughts or concerns there, or advice?
When COVID hit, that was a big one. We had a couple of tenants try to get forgiveness, but they just misunderstood. Governor Herbert put his foot in his mouth. You guys remember that? Within seconds, every realtor leader called them and chewed them out. But they had to have literally had COVID or lost their job because of COVID, and they had to prove it. So I had a couple of tenants request it, but they literally had nothing to do with COVID. So it was like, sorry. And so it wasn't an issue. The bigger concern is what he just mentioned, which is the chatter on to support Biden's spending plan on increased taxes. They're threatening, and 1031 exchanges get threatened all the time. I mean, I'm not even that old, but I feel like, I swear we've been talking about it. Every president has talked about attacking the 1031 exchange. That's a very valid concern. If 1031 exchanges were, I'm not going to go away entirely, but if they were to, dramatically change. Yeah, like which in this market, like almost my little townhome's over 500 already.
But that will just accelerate prices because
Bingo.
people
It'll
will-
have an opposite effect.
It's going to have the opposite effect because people are just going to say, well, I'm just not going to sell.
Yep, you'll see
Well, I'm
listings
going to wait for
evaporate.
the next president, and that's going to hurt. It's going to do exactly the opposite of what he wants.
Because so I'm listing 4 of my rentals I'm putting on the market this month, and I'm doing all of them to 1031 into some really cool projects.
Yeah, and if they're entry level homes, they're probably going to go to somebody that's owner occupant for
Bingo.
the most part.
They're all my little junkers. They're all
See?
entry level, and I'm moving them all into a commercial deal that I'm trying to put
And
together with
those entry
Boyd.
level homes are going to just go crazy
Yep.
high.
So if they
he
do
does
this,
that.
I just sit on my homes till I die. Like that's the
Or
problem.
until
is-
the next president.
or till it changes.
Hopefully.
Yeah. And it's just so funny to hear conversations like that, because remember Obama did, and I don't know if it's Obama, I don't want to give credit to where credit's not due, but you guys remember opportunity zones that came out a few years ago, and everybody was talking about opportunity zones. It's literally the opposite. It's saying if you buy in this area, you essentially get 1031 exchanges for free for life. Like if in this area, you don't pay capital gains on projects that you build in these opportunity zones. And they were in areas that needed to be rehabbed, but it worked. Like you want to talk about like the gold rush real estate, like the last 3 years, that's all anybody was talking about. And so the opportunity zone in Salt Lake, we just have one little one in Utah County, but it was like every developer with $1 in his pocket was door knocking in these opportunity zones. They wanted to just, it worked, which is ironic that it's literally the opposite of this conversation of like, let's just tax the rich, because
I want to go back to the free rent thing. I was able to work with the majority of our tenants. We finally got paid. I only had to evict one with the sheriff. That was ugly. And we did an end of term lease. The other two self-evicted because they knew that we were going down that path and they didn't want it on their credit. And I think once we get past this, I don't know, I think it's going to change the way landlords work. We won't do anybody that has got an eviction ever. So, and I think a lot of landlords that got stung this time, they're going to do the same. So I think the government is going to look at this time frame and be real careful what they're going to do to a mom and pop landlord going forward. I don't know how you feel about it, but we don't know the true damage of what even up to now has happened. I think we're not going to know that until probably the end of next year.
yeah, and what goes around comes around. I was fully prepared last spring that if I had tenants that had COVID, that I would turn around and just apply for the forbearance so I wouldn't have my mortgage payment. So essentially what goes around comes around. If I don't have to pay the mortgage, then certainly I can forego rent for that month. Luckily I didn't have to deal with it.
I just kept making the payments, and I think.
Yeah, so did we. I
Yeah.
didn't do any forbearances,
Yeah,
and
one thing that I didn't do that I wish I would have the last couple of years, I was so focused on principal pay down, I didn't have reserves. I had some reserve, a couple months worth. I thought, well, nobody's going to stop paying on once. Holy crap. Well, who would have thought, right? So I'm getting that built back up. So, I won't go without 6 months ever again. It's just never going to happen again for me, just because I'm so conservative. But I think we're going to have an easier time of it as landlords, especially in Utah. Utah's a very landlord-friendly space compared to California, obviously. And I think that, you look across the country and I think at least half of the landlords are small landlords. And you're seeing them sell off. And I was just telling, I think you earlier, in my HOA community, we had 11 rentals. We're down to 1 in the last 6 months. So people are selling off because they can, and they're getting so much money. They're selling all their properties off, and it's shrinking that rental pool. And I think we're going to see that happen over this next year, even shrink further, and it's going to push up the rents. That rental pool is shrinking, and people aren't realizing it. You're doing it. You're selling all your entry-level stuff, and most of them are going to be going to first-time homeowners.
exactly. Yep.
I also see a lot of builders, they're wanting to build apartments and condos and townhomes, and they're holding them and keeping them for rentals.
I've seen that.
So
Yeah,
that seems to be
Ivory.
really popular right now.
Yeah.
Big builders.
Because they got to stick their money somewhere.
But
Yeah.
they're not doing the entry-level stuff.
We had a question over here. Is that right?
I was gonna ask, how do you know when to sell that you had as an investment? Like, is it like a gut feeling, or is it like physical destruction?
Well, the first answer is at 27 and a half years, right? Because that's the end of your depreciation schedule.
Right, but do you typically, like, it sounds like you don't really hold yours necessarily that long, so, or is that?
Which is so weird because my goal from when I was 21 was to have 100 rental doors. And now I'm kind of going backwards a little bit, but it's like that little step back to take the leap forward, right? It's leveling up.
Because you're trying to go into a different space too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I don't know I think everybody would have a unique answer. And I think when you've got, Tracy who says I'm very conservative, it might just be, hey, once I'm at 10 doors, then it's just pay down those mortgages as quick as possible, get them paid off. then I'm rolling into a sweet life with 10 paid off properties that, and so you sacrifice cash flow for growth. And that's where I own a handful of properties with a couple of partners, and we've always been on the same page for the last several years that it's just grow, 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 grow. We've never taken a dime out of the companies. We've always just used it to snowball into other stuff. But this last year, like 2020, had some of us thinking like, well, maybe we do want to like now push the cash flow button, meaning maybe we sell a couple to pay off others. So it just skyrockets our cash flow. But I don't know if
And
I'm
easier to
there
pay
yet.
down.
So like a lot of the rentals I'm buying right now is not with my partners. I'm just doing it on my own because I'm still in like hungry hippo, go buy as much as I can. But I'm 36. Will I be the same way in my 40s? Like, no, I'll probably really want to hit that cash flow button in my 40s. So I don't know. It's a weird game. And it also comes when opportunity comes on. I had no intention of selling these 4 properties until a really sweet, like amazing deal came across my desk. And it's a land deal that we could develop and then potentially build apartments on. Always, that's everyone's dream, right? To get into the apartment game. And it's like, okay, this might be my shot, but I need money. And so if I'm going to be like a player at that table, I need to show up with a couple $100,000, which means I got to sell some of my little rentals.
And I think that is the best answer, is being prepared for when the opportunity comes in. And that's how, with my rentals, it was, they weren't listed, they were clients I was talking to, and it just, it was able to work out, and I was prepared. I had saved the money. I was ready for when that opportunity came.
Yeah, almost every rental I have, by the way, came from a fellow KW agent that told me about a pocket listing or a listing appointment that they needed that instant cash offer because they were in a true pinch. Like, that's the power of like being a realtor, being an investor first, but being a realtor and an investor has so many advantages like that. Yeah. I mean, almost every deal I have is because of this organization.
Well, all of them were mine, or I wouldn't have done it if I wasn't here.
Right. I wouldn't have done most of mine if I wasn't here.
It's just having that mindset, being ready,
And
always
who you're
looking.
surrounded by, honestly, because everybody here has had a role in pushing me forward.
Yeah. And being part of these conversations, I learned almost all of my real estate investing from little meetings like this and reading books and podcasts.
I think all of us are going to go look for a rental tonight.
No,
After
seriously,
all that positive info.
Seriously, do it. Yeah.
Quick question. So if you guys were to wipe your face clean, you're at day one where you are about to, like, you're looking for your first property, you're back when you're 21, but you're today, what's your move? How's your plan? Because these houses are 2, 3, 4 times the price of what you're buying.
If I could rewind the clock, I could kick myself in the butt, because when I was 21, my godmother's husband, he owns apartment buildings all over this valley. And he said that he would mentor me and even sell me one of his apartments. And I said, I was too afraid. I mean, I was making minimum wage. I was still going to college, and I was thinking, God, and I was thinking, $350 a month for rent was expensive then, right? I look back now and thought, why would I?
So how would you start in today's market?
House hack, just like he did.
I was just gonna say house hack. Go move your butt into it. If you're not living in a home you own, start there.
Buy your first rental as your.
Yeah, do you own something right now?
No, I do. I've owned it. And the thing was,
How long have you owned it?
I owned it for just over 3 years.
Way too long.
Well, and that's
Way too long. You hit your year mark. Next one. You may. It's
that's the thing, 'cause
even cheat. 8 months move
I
out.
stopped my 9-to-5 job to come over to do real estate full time, but now on 1099,
You don't
so
qualify.
Now I don't have that 2-year gap,
Partners.
So now I'm trying to figure that out.
You only need 2 pay stubs. Just go get a full-time job.
Yeah, co-signers and partners. That's honestly why I got suckered into partners.
Yeah.
Yeah, my very first, just hit your 2-year mark as soon as you can, and don't write everything off. You know how many realtors like,
Yeah.
I paid no taxes this year. I'm like, you idiot, you can't buy a rental now because they wrote every single dime off.
But this is a plug for Alta Bank. They are awesome. If you guys need Becky, what's her last name? Becky at Alta Bank in American Fork. They can take your tax returns and they will back out some of the stuff you're writing off, because that's how I refinanced everything. I refinanced every loan in October, and they went off my 2019 returns, even though last year was just a disaster as far as what I was receiving. They didn't even look at it. And they took all the stuff out of the stuff I rent, all my rental stuff. No problem at all. Refinanced everything. Because that's what they do is the investment portfolio.
Sweet.
Live frugal, save as much as you can.
I was gonna say-
That's how I, like I just closed in December on the fourplex. So it's in this market, and I just saved every penny I could. So it's just.
You ever heard of Dave Ramsey? That's his whole thing is live like no one else now so that you can live like no one else later mentality. It's, I don't know what you're driving, but it's probably too expensive. Like put that money into a rental.
Qualify for the investment property, do they calculate the potential rent as being your income percentage of it?
Yeah, I think 75%.
Yeah.
Yeah, 75% or something like that.
It's surprising how many.
And
how
it's
many
finally,
properties I am approved for by myself. I'm like,
Yeah.
dang, you're
Yeah.
gonna give
Well,
me
it's-
another one?
it's
I'm
finally-
like, it's weird.
it's finally coming back up because when I was first buying, they were only counting 50%. And that made it really hard.
We need to wrap up, but I think, did you have a question? I have one. I don't know if is there anything around tax saving strategies or cost segregation that you guys have any tips or tricks on that you want to talk about?
Yeah, and I'll plug another class that's coming up. Our MCAs are going to be doing an agent financials class. Take it, because this last year, there were things that, because I'm licensed and I have this business, I didn't think of doing. And I had that IRA, the self-directed IRA, took the money out to be on the safe side because I didn't have my reserves, called my accountant and said, okay, I don't want to pay money on this. I'm not going to put it back in. What do I do? It's like, go buy a car. Like, I'm not going to go buy a car. It's like, yeah, go buy a car, put it on your business. So I did exactly what he did. This year, I got $2,000 back and I saved $37,000 in taxes by not having to pay that money back on my IRA. So, and there's tons of tips and tricks like that. So take the agent financials class. There's probably things that you're doing for your own business that you don't even realize are write-offs.
Ask me in a year about cost seg. I'm doing it for the first time this year.
Well, I brought that up. I did it on, I bought 2 properties in 2019 and it saved me thousands of dollars. It was incredible. So cost segregation is basically you're taking 100% depreciation on a large portion of items. You're cost segregating items out in the property, and you're depreciating that 100% the first year rather than the 27 and a half years. Is it 29? 29 and a half years? 27 and a half.
27.
So that's what cost segregation is. And
Cost seg, by the way, when you're like scrolling through TikTok and that girl's like, what's something you know that should be like a secret or what the secrets of the wealthy or whatever, it's cost seg.
Yeah.
Like the minute and I still don't fully understand it, but when they showed me the numbers of like, it's like $90,000 are going to put in my pocket this year. I'm like, how do you do, like, are you?
Well, and that's the same thing with the SUV because it had to be over 6,000 pounds. I wrote the entire amount off, traded in my car that was costing me more money in insurance. I basically paid hardly anything for the SUV, and I got that. It saved me $27,000 in taxes.
Come to the classes.
Yeah.
It's like, how does that actually work? I mean,
It's got to be illegal.
It's got to be illegal.
It's like, this is the illegal stuff that the rich are doing that
Right.
Yeah. So that's why I asked the question on cost segregation. So if you guys look into it, it is something that will save you money, and you can go backwards. I've had a rental for years that, I didn't buy that year, but I could still do a cost segregation on it, even though I bought it 7 or 8 years ago. So it's, use that.
CPAs you recommend that are familiar with real estate? Because I got burned last year by a CPA who didn't understand real estate. It's just not what he does. And I went and bought real estate. Now I'm like, oh my God, like I'm drowning. Because I'm having to do everything.
Mine's not taking on any more clients.
no, I'd connect with the staff. There's
I can tell you one that they do the cost segregation in-house in the CPA, and it's probably, I mean, it's pretty inexpensive. Plus there's another person, they cost a little bit more. I've got a couple options for you.
There's two, like if you do that with a car and then you go to sell your car, there's also tax implications.
Yes.
Right, you have to keep it a specific amount of time.
You gotta keep it.
Yeah, if you do a cost seg and then you sell it the next, I mean, you're going to save a bunch on taxes, but you sell it the next year, plan on paying those taxes.
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of more of a
I think
don't
5 years is the number. I have to keep it for 5. I can't remember.
something like that. But
Dude, so this is your diehard group right here.
yeah,
We
totally.
lost like half the room because
No
we started
kidding.
talking about making money, and
Yeah.
we started talking about taxes and half the room left.
Yep.
Guys, you're the diehards.
Well, let's give our.
I hired Mark Kohler as my CPA and I fired him the next year. Problem is he's so big that the girl that actually did my taxes, she was saying just some of the weirdest stuff. I looked her up and she had worked at Dickey's like 3 months before she was my accountant. So that didn't work out.
I like his YouTube and podcasts, but I didn't have the
Yeah.
greatest experience with his company.
Yeah, me neither. But I did hire him to set up my self-directed.
See, and
IRA
that's what I
stuff.
didn't have a good.
Oh, really?
I went with the company he said to manage, and it was that company that went bankrupt because they were taking the money. Yeah,
Don't use them.
yeah, and I use.
Hopefully that's gone now.
I'm using one of the KW preferred vendors out of Arizona now.
Good.
No, for the self-directed IRA
Self-directed.
to manage it.
We'll get some
Excellent.
CP. The office has good connections. But.
Yeah,
Hey guys, happy May the 4th be with you.
absolutely. Let's give our panel a round of applause. A lot of great info.
Thanks.
Yep. Thank you, guys.